Now listen.
Mga besh, welcome back to my channel. Okay, narito naman po tayo sa ating nakakaloka at makabuluhang vlog about accounting tutorial. Okay, so this is Mark. So our objective for today class is to identify the assets as a basic element of accounting and also to differentiate the current from non-current assets. Okay, so our lesson for today class is about the basic accounting equation, the assets, the definition of assets, classification of current assets, and the classification of non-current assets. Now mga besh, ito po ang ating basic accounting equation. So assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. So mga besh, iisa-isahin po natin kung ano ba ang mga ibig sabihin ng assets, ano ba ang liabilities, ano ba ang owner's equity, para malaman po natin kung ano ang mga nabilong sa assets, anong nabilong sa liabilities, at ano po ang nabilong sa may owner's equity, para mas maintindihan po natin sila ng mabuti. Diba mga besh, we have the basic accounting equation, assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. So isa sa mga basic element ng ating accounting equation ang assets. So ang assets mga best are defined as resources controlled by the entity as a result of past transactions and events that from which the future economic benefits are expected to flow to the entity. Okay, so iisa-isahin natin yan mga besh kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng definition ng isang asset. So mga besh, isa sa mga essential characteristic ng ating assets ay controlled by the entity. So control is the ability to obtain the economic benefits and to restrict the access of others. So ano pong ibig sabihin nito mga besh? So dapat kontrolado po ng entity ang kanyang mga assets. So si entity lamang po ang makikinabang sa kanyang asset. At dapat po hindi po na-access ng ibang entity ang kanyang mga assets. Okay, next mga besh, we have letter B, result of past transaction or events. The event must be passed before an asset can arise. So anong ibig pong sabihin nito? Okay, so mga besh, meaning dapat meron pong nangyaring past transaction bago ma-obtain or makuha ng entity ang asset. So next essential characteristic of an asset is provides future economic benefits evidenced by the prospective receipt of cash. So ano pong ibig sabihin nito ng provides future economic benefits? Okay, meaning to say, ibinenta mo po yung inyong mga assets to grant more cash inflow sa inyong entity. Last but not certainly the least, essential characteristic of an asset. So mga besh, the cost of an asset can be measured reliably. Mga besh, we have two classification of assets. So we have current assets and non-current assets. So uunahin muna natin besh kung ano ang current assets. So according to improvements to international accounting standards, we classify asset as current when it is, okay, number 1, so expected to be realized in or is intended for sale or consumption in the entity's normal operating cycle. Okay, dapat daw ang asset is can be realized or it is intended for sale. So, ibinebenta or consumption or para maubos ng ating entity ang ating asset in the normal operating cycle. So, ano pong normal operating cycle ng isang entity? So, we have 12 months. Okay, next, number 2, held primarily for the purpose of being traded. Okay, next, expected to be realized within 12 months of the balance sheet date. So, dapat ang asset po expected na magamit within 12 months. Okay, so number 4, cash or cash equivalent unless it is restricted from being exchanged or used to settle a liability for at least 12 months after the balance sheet date. Okay, so mabibilang lamang po siya kung current kung hindi po siya unrestricted po ang yung cash nyo or cash equivalent. So, meaning to say, if it is restricted from being exchanged or used to settle a liability for at least 12 months after the balance sheet date, so hindi na po siya makla-classify as current. So, dapat po ang cash nyo ay unrestricted para maklasify po siya as current asset. Besh, when we say unrestricted, meaning to say available for use po ang ating asset within the normal operating cycle. So we have here, Besh, the examples of current assets. Okay, so we have the cash. So anong nabilong sa cash, mga Besh? So it includes mga coins, mga currencies, checks, mga bank deposits, and other cash items readily available for use in the operations of the business. We have accounts receivable. So, spelling. Dapat dalawang silang po, mga Besh. So, accounts receivable, amount collectible from the customer to whom sales have made or services have been rendered on account or credit. Okay, anong ibig sabihin po nito, mga Besh? Okay, let us say for example, nag-render ka ng services or nagpautang ka ng goods. So, meaning to say, inutang yung services mo na ni-render mo sa iyong customer or nagbenta ka ng goods na inutang ng iyong customer. So, tinatawag po siyang accounts receivable. Meaning to say, goods or services na ni-render mo sa iyong mga customer pero inutang ito ni customer. So, tinatawag po siyang accounts receivable. Okay, so next we have notes receivable. So, it is a promissory note issued by the client or the customer on exchange for services or goods received as evidence of his or her obligations to pay. So, meaning to say, ito naman ay merong tinatawag na kasulatan or promissory note na inisyo ni customer. Let us say for example, nag-render ka ng services or nagbenta ka ng goods sa iyong customer pero inutang niya ito. Pero ang pag-utang niya po, meron po siyang kasulatan kung kailan po siya magbabayad ng kanyang utang. So, as an evidence of his or her obligations to pay. So, tinatawag po natin yan sa ating current asset as notes receivable. Okay, next we have inventories. Inventories represent the unsold goods at the end of the accounting period. Okay, so this is applicable only to the merchandising business. Okay, let's say for example ng mga inventories. Okay, sa mga sari-sari store. So, meron ka mga paninda na hindi na ibenta. So, yun po ang tinatawag nating inventories. So, this is only applicable for the merchandising type of business. Kasi po, iba po ang accounting for service type of business at iba rin po ang accounting for merchandising type of business. Okay, so next we have notes receivable. So, it is a promissory note issued by the client or the customer on exchange for services or goods received as evidence of his or her obligations to pay. So, meaning to say, ito naman ay merong tinatawag na kasulatan or promissory note na inisyo ni customer. Let us say for example, nag-render ka ng services or nagbenta ka ng goods sa iyong customer pero inutang niya ito. Pero ang pag-utang niya po, meron po siyang kasulatan kung kailan po siya magbabayad ng kanyang utang. So, as an evidence of his or her obligations to pay. So, tinatawag po natin yan sa ating current asset as notes receivable. Okay, next we have inventories. Inventories represent the unsold goods at the end of the accounting period. Okay, so this is applicable only to the merchandising business. Okay, let's say for example ng mga inventories. Okay, sa mga sari-sari store. So, meron ka mga paninda na hindi na ibenta. So, yun po ang tinatawag nating inventories. So, this is only applicable for the merchandising type of business. Kasi po, iba po ang accounting for service type of business at iba rin po ang accounting for merchandising type of business. Okay, so next classification of assets, so we have non-current assets. So sa mga hindi po nabanggit sa mga essential characteristic ng ating current assets, tinatawag po siya na non-current assets. So example po mga besh, we have property, plant, and equipment are long-lived assets which have been acquired for use in operation. So diba sa current assets, sa normal operating cycle lang po or 12 months na nagagamit ang mga assets. Pero sa non-current assets, so lagpas po siya sa isang taon. So makaklasify na po siya as non-current assets. So example po, property, plant, and equipment. Okay, next we have long-term investments. So our investments made by the company for long-term purposes. So makaklasify po siya natin sa non-current assets. So next we have intangible assets. So ano po ang tinatawag natin na intangible assets? So intangible assets are assets without physical substance. So you cannot seen by your or you cannot perceive it by your senses. So mga sense of touch. So example, sense of sight, sense of hearing, di ba? Intangible, hindi mo siya makikita. So examples, we have franchise and copyright. So yan po ang mga example ng ating mga current assets. We have property, plant, and equipment, long-term investments, and intangible assets. Recap lang po ng ating lesson for today. So, ang ating lesson is about basic accounting equation. So, what is the basic accounting equation? So, we have assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. So, sa lesson po natin, nalaman po natin ang definition ng assets at ang classification of current assets and classification of non-current assets. So, sa assets po, meron po tayong two classification. We have current assets and non-current assets. So, thank you so much mga besh for listening, and sa lahat po ng mga nanonood ng aking mga videos, thank you so much po sa panunood. Patuloy lang po ang pag-watch at pag-like at pag-comments ng aking mga videos. So, and also don't forget to subscribe my channel. Bye mga besh! Shout out po ako sa mga nanonood ng aking mga videos. Kay Jerome Medyo, thank you for the information daw. Thank you so much, Jerome. Bobsy Vlog, thank you for sharing. So maraming salamat po sa panunood, Bobsy Vlog. And we have also Jingsky Tropel. Nice intro, keep going friend. Okay, thank you so much po. Meron pa sa ilalim ata. Titingnan natin mga besh. Okay, so from Rains Video PH, salamat po sa information. Sana ganito din yung mga lessons. May pahabol na video para mas madali mag-review at maintindihan. I'm here to send my full support. Let's grow together. Wow, thank you so much po sa lahat ng mga nanonood ng aking mga videos. Thank you mga besh. Mwah mwah mwah.